When I pressed play on the video compilation in front of both families, watching my wife's face drain of color as her best friend's 6-month seduction campaign played out on our living room TV, that's when I knew every silent, calculated moment of restraint had been worth it. Welcome to Cheating Story Exposed. Real stories, real justice, no sugarcoating. You know what? I notice many of you watching haven't hit that subscribe button yet. Here's the thing, we drop stories like this every single day. Stories about people who got played, got smart, and got even. If you want to see how these situations really end, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. My name is Cameron, and I'm a cybersecurity consultant. That detail matters because when you spend your professional life protecting digital infrastructure and analyzing threats, you develop certain instincts. You learn to spot patterns. You understand that the most dangerous attacks aren't the obvious ones. They're the ones that come from inside, from trusted sources. I never thought I'd need to apply those same principles to my personal life. 3 years ago, I married Natasha. She was brilliant, ambitious, beautiful, a corporate attorney with a sharp mind and even sharper wit. We met at a tech conference where she was speaking about digital privacy law. I was immediately drawn to her confidence, the way she commanded a room. Our relationship moved fast, maybe too fast looking back, but I was 34, she was 32, and we both felt ready to build something permanent. Natasha's best friend since college was a woman named Vivienne. Where Natasha was polished and professional, Vivienne was artistic and free-spirited, or so I thought. She worked as a lifestyle influencer, which basically meant she got paid to look beautiful and post about products online. She'd been Natasha's maid of honor at our wedding, gave a toast about their unbreakable bond, cried during the ceremony. I thought she was genuinely happy for us. For the first 2 years of our marriage, everything seemed solid. Natasha and I both worked demanding jobs, but we made time for each other. Friday date nights were sacred. Sunday mornings were for sleeping in and making elaborate breakfasts. We talked about starting a family soon, maybe in another year. We just bought a house in a good neighborhood, a 4-bedroom colonial with a home office for me and enough space for the kids we planned to have. Vivienne was around constantly. She and Natasha had girls' nights twice a week, went to yoga together, texted constantly. I didn't mind. I understood that female friendships were important, and honestly, I had my own close friends I'd maintained since college. Vivienne was friendly enough to me, pleasant small talk at dinners, occasional jokes, nothing that raised any flags. The first weird moment came about 6 months before everything exploded. It was a Saturday afternoon in October. Natasha had gone to visit her parents for the weekend. They lived about 3 hours away, and her mom had been sick with pneumonia. I'd stayed home because I had a major client presentation to prep for on Monday. Vivienne knew Natasha was out of town because they texted constantly. Around 2 in the afternoon, my doorbell rang. I was in my office, deep in code review, wearing sweatpants and an old college t-shirt. I opened the door to find Vivienne standing there in yoga pants and a crop top, holding a bottle of wine. She smiled brightly. Too brightly. Cameron, hey, I was in the neighborhood and thought you might want some company since Nat's gone. Figured you'd be bored. I wasn't bored, I was working, but I tried to be polite. That's thoughtful, but I'm actually in the middle of a project. Pretty deep in the weeds with it. She stepped closer, not quite crossing the threshold, but close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something expensive and floral. Oh, come on, you can't. Work all weekend. Natasha told me you do that too much. Live a little. We can order food, watch a movie, just friends hanging out. Something about her energy felt off. The way she tilted her head, the way her eyes held mine just a fraction too long. But I told myself I was being paranoid. She was Natasha's best friend. This was innocent. I appreciate it, Vivienne, but I really do need to finish this. Maybe another time when Natasha's here too. Her smile dimmed slightly, but she recovered quickly. Sure, of course, I get it. Work mode. Well, if you change your mind, text me. I'll be around all weekend. She left and I went back to work, but something nagged at me. Why had she really come over? Natasha had plenty of other friends. If Vivienne wanted company, she had options. Why show up at our house alone, knowing I was alone? I filed it away as mildly odd, but not alarming. Not yet. The second incident came 3 weeks later. Natasha and I were hosting a dinner party, 8 people total, including Vivienne and her boyfriend at the time, a guy named Derek who worked in finance. It was a nice evening, good food, flowing wine, lots of laughter. Around 11, people started leaving. Derek had to work early the next morning, so he left first. Vivienne said she'd stay to help clean up. Natasha was in the kitchen loading the dishwasher. I was in the dining room clearing plates and wine glasses. Vivienne came up beside me, reaching for a glass at the same moment I did. Our hands touched. Nothing unusual, accidental contact happens, except she didn't pull away. Her hand stayed on mine for a beat too long. When I looked at her, she was smiling in a way that made my stomach tighten with discomfort. "Whoops," she said softly. "Sorry, didn't mean to get in your way." "No problem," I replied, pulling my hand back and stepping away. I moved into the kitchen where Natasha was, suddenly wanting witnesses around. That night, after Vivienne left and Natasha and I were getting ready for bed, I almost mentioned it. But what would I say? Your best friend held my hand for 2 seconds. It sounded ridiculous. I'd sound paranoid or conceited, like I thought every woman was hitting on me. So I said nothing. But I started paying attention. Over the next month, I noticed small things. The way Vivienne always managed to sit next to me when we all hung out. How she'd find excuses to touch my arm when she laughed at my jokes. The way she'd text me directly sometimes instead of texting Natasha. Innocent things like asking what restaurant we'd gone to last week, or what brand of something we owned. Nothing overtly inappropriate, but a pattern forming. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late January, freezing cold outside. Natasha was at a work dinner that was running late, some client thing that I hadn't been invited to, which was fine. I was home alone, had just finished a workout in our basement gym, and was about to shower when my phone buzzed. Text from Vivienne. "Hey, my car won't start and I'm stranded at the mall. Derek's out of town. Any chance you could pick me up? I know Nat's at her work thing." I stared at the message, that uneasy feeling returning. But what could I say? No, freeze because I'm uncomfortable. That seemed cruel and probably paranoid. She was Natasha's best friend. Of course I'd help. I texted back, "Sure, give me 20 minutes. I showered quickly, threw on jeans and a sweater, and drove to the mall. It was nearly 9 at night, and the parking lot was mostly empty. I found Vivienne standing near her car in the far corner of the lot, away from the lights. She was wearing a tight dress and heels, strange outfit for January mall shopping, but I didn't comment. She got in my car, shivering dramatically. "Oh my God, thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. I've been out here for like 40 minutes. No problem. Did you call roadside assistance?" "Yeah, they said it'll be like 2 hours. I just want to go home and deal with it tomorrow." I started driving toward her apartment across town. She lived alone in a trendy neighborhood, the kind of place with expensive coffee shops and boutiques. We made small talk. She asked about my work, I asked about hers. Normal conversation. Then about halfway to her place, she shifted in her seat, angling her body toward me. "Cameron, can I tell you something? And please don't make it weird." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Sure. I think you're really attractive." Like really attractive. And I know that's probably inappropriate to say, but I've been thinking about it for a while and I just needed to tell someone. Her voice was soft, almost vulnerable. I'm not trying to cause problems. I just needed to be honest. Every alarm in my head started screaming. I kept my voice calm, neutral. "Vivienne, I appreciate the honesty, but I'm married to your best friend. That's not something we should be discussing." I know. She held up her hands. "You're right. I'm sorry. It's just been on my mind and I felt like I couldn't breathe without saying it. But you're totally right. Let's just forget I said anything." We drove the rest of the way in silence. When I pulled up to her building, she touched my arm before getting out. "Thank you for the ride, and sorry for being weird. This stays between us, right? No need to make Natasha uncomfortable over nothing." That last part hooked into my brain. This stays between us. Why would she assume I wouldn't tell my wife? Unless she knew it wasn't nothing. Unless this was calculated, right? I said noncommittally. She got out, waved, and went inside. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, mind racing. Then I drove home and did something I'd never done before. I parked down the street and sat in the dark, thinking. That's when the cybersecurity part of my brain kicked in. In my work, when we suspect an internal threat, we don't confront immediately. We monitor. We gather evidence. We document everything, because the worst thing you can do is tip off the threat before you have proof. What if Vivienne wasn't just attracted to me? What if this was something more deliberate? What if Natasha somehow knew, or worse, was involved? That last thought seemed insane, but I couldn't shake it. The way Vivienne had phrased things. "This stays between us. No need to make Natasha uncomfortable." It felt rehearsed. I needed to know the truth, and I needed evidence. The next day, I went online and ordered small, high-definition security cameras. Not the obvious kind, the discreet ones designed for home security that most people never notice. Tiny units that looked like phone chargers, picture frames, even a clock. all Wi-Fi enabled, all recording to cloud storage that only I could access. Over the next week, I installed them strategically throughout the house. One in the living room, disguised as a bookend. One in the kitchen, hidden in the side of a decorative bowl on top of the fridge. One in my home office, built into a pen holder on my desk. And one in the hallway near the front door. I told Natasha I was upgrading our home security after reading about break-ins in the neighborhood. She barely looked up from her laptop. That's smart, babe. Whatever you think is best. Then I waited. For 3 weeks, nothing unusual happened. The cameras captured normal life. Me working, Natasha coming and going, us cooking dinner together, watching TV. I started to feel foolish. Maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe Vivienne's confession had been a one-time moment of weakness that meant nothing. Then came the evening that proved me right to be suspicious. It was a Thursday in February. Natasha had texted me that afternoon saying she'd be home late. Depositions running over, probably wouldn't be back until 9 or 10. I was home by 6, made myself dinner, and settled into my office to work. At 7:30, my phone buzzed with a notification from the security app. Motion. Detected front door camera. I pulled up the live feed and felt my blood run cold. Vivienne was at my front door. She rang the bell. I didn't answer. I stayed in my office, watching through the camera app on my phone. She rang again. Then she tried the handle, locked, obviously. She stood there for a moment looking around, then pulled out her phone. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Hey, are you home? I'm at your door, but you're not answering. Wanted to drop off some stuff for Nat. I didn't respond. On the camera feed, I watched her wait another minute, then leave. She got in her car and drove away. I checked the timestamp. Natasha wasn't due home for at least 90 minutes. Vivienne had come over knowing I'd be alone. The stuff for Nat excuse was transparent. She could have texted Natasha directly or left whatever it was at the door or come by when Natasha was actually home. This was a test. She was seeing if I'd let her in when no one else was around. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I started researching. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. Was this just Vivienne acting alone, trying to seduce me for some twisted reason? Or was there more to it? I went through our phone bills. I had access to the family account. Natasha and Vivienne texted constantly, which I knew. But I started noticing patterns. They texted more frequently right before and after times when Vivienne had tried to make contact with me. The night she'd confessed in my car, she'd texted Natasha for 20 minutes as soon as I dropped her off. What were they discussing? I couldn't access the content of the texts through the phone company, but I started paying closer attention to Natasha's behavior. She'd always been a little distant when she was stressed about work, but lately there was something else. She'd check her phone constantly and angle it away from me. She'd smile at something on the screen and not share what it was. One Sunday morning, she was in the shower and left her phone on the nightstand. It buzzed with a text. I glanced at it, just a reflex. The preview on the lock screen showed a message from Vivienne. Don't worry, he's clueless, stick to the plan. My heart stopped. I picked up the phone, but it was locked. I knew her passcode. We'd always been open about that, but something stopped me from looking. If I checked her phone and she found out, I'd lose the element of surprise. I needed to be smarter. The plan. They had a plan. Whatever was happening, my wife was involved. I sat there, mind racing, until I heard the shower turn off. Then I put the phone back exactly where it had been and left the room. I went downstairs and made coffee, hands shaking slightly as I measured out the grounds. What was the plan? What did they want? And why? Over the next 2 weeks, I became a man obsessed. I watched the camera feeds religiously. I noted every time Natasha was evasive about where she'd been. I paid attention to our finances. Had she been moving money around? Not that I could see. Everything seemed normal on that front. Then came the breakthrough. It was a Wednesday night, early March. Natasha had another late work thing, or so she said. I was home, supposedly working. Around 8, the front door camera picked up motion. Vivienne again. But this time, she didn't ring the bell. She pulled out a key, my wife's key, and she let herself in. I watched through my office camera as she walked into the house, looking around carefully. She went into the kitchen, opened the fridge, poured herself a glass of wine from a bottle Natasha and I had opened the night before. Then she walked into the living room, sat on our couch, and pulled out her phone. I was in my office with the door mostly closed, barely breathing. What was she doing? She sat there for maybe 10 minutes, sipping wine and looking at her phone. Then I heard her voice talking to someone. I couldn't make out the words clearly, but the camera in the living room was recording everything. After about 20 minutes, she got up, rinsed the wine glass, put it back, and left. locked the door behind her with the key. The second she was gone, I pulled up the recording. The camera had audio. I listened to the phone conversation she'd had while sitting on my couch, and my entire world shifted. She'd been talking to Natasha. The conversation went like this, Vivienne's side only. "I'm at the house now. He's definitely home, his car's here, but he's not answering." "Yeah, I used your key." "No, I don't think he knows." "Okay, so next week then, when he's supposed to be at that conference." "Perfect, I'll make my move then. This needs to happen soon, Nat. We've been setting this up for months." I know, just trust me. Once he cheats, you file immediately and take everything." "Yes, the prenup becomes void if he's unfaithful. We've been over this." "Right, okay, talk later." I played it back 3 times, making sure I heard correctly. Then I just sat there in the dark, processing. My wife and her best friend were trying to set me up. They wanted to catch me cheating so Natasha could divorce me and bypass our prenuptial agreement. The prenup we'd signed before getting married had been my lawyer's idea. I'd had significant assets from my business, and he'd insisted on protection. Natasha had signed without much argument, but now I understood why. She'd been planning an exit strategy even then, or at least keeping options open. How long had they been planning this? Months, apparently. Maybe longer. I felt sick. But underneath the betrayal and hurt, something else emerged, cold, calculated fury. They thought I was clueless. They thought I was an easy mark. They'd underestimated me completely. I wasn't going to confront them, not yet. I was going to let them execute their plan, document every second of it, and destroy them both with the evidence. The conference Vivienne had mentioned was real. Cybersecurity Summit in Chicago the following week, Thursday through Saturday. 3 days. Natasha knew about it. Apparently so did Vivienne, and they decided that's when she'd make her final move. I had 8 days to prepare. First, I upgraded the cameras. I added more, one in the master bedroom, disguised as an alarm clock. One in the guest bedroom, another in the garage, every room covered, every angle captured, all recording to encrypted cloud storage with timestamps that couldn't be disputed. Second, I documented everything I had so far. I created a folder on a secure server, not our home computer, but one I accessed through my work VPN that Natasha had no knowledge of. I uploaded every suspicious text exchange I'd screenshot, every camera recording of Vivienne's visits, that phone conversation. I created a timeline document, noting every incident with dates and details. Third, I consulted with my own lawyer. Not our family lawyer, a new one, someone Natasha had never met. A man named Richard Chen who specialized in divorce cases and had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless when needed. I showed him everything I had. He leaned back in his chair, whistling low. "Cameron, this is one of the clearest cases of attempted entrapment I've seen. If you let this play out and document it fully, she won't get a penny beyond what the prenup specifies. In fact, we can probably go after her for fraud, maybe even sue the friend for conspiracy. I want them both destroyed," I said quietly. "Legally, financially, socially, everything." He smiled. "Then let's make sure we have overwhelming evidence. I need video of her making the attempt, ideally with audio of her propositioning you. I need you to clearly refuse. I need evidence of continued planning between them after you refuse. Can you get all that? I already have cameras everywhere. I'll get everything." "Good, don't let on that you know anything. Act completely normal. When this goes to court, and it will, we want them to have no defense. We want this airtight." I left his office feeling focused. I had a mission now. The week passed slowly. I acted exactly as I always had with Natasha. Affectionate, attentive, normal. She suspected nothing. I could tell she was excited about something, almost giddy. She probably thought she was about to become a very wealthy divorcee. Vivienne texted me twice that week with flimsy excuses to meet up, which I politely declined. She was laying groundwork, making it seem like we'd been spending time together. Wednesday night, the night before I was supposed to leave for Chicago, Natasha was particularly affectionate. We had dinner together, watched a movie, made love. The whole time I kept thinking she's saying goodbye to the marriage. Tomorrow her plan goes into motion, and after that she'll file for divorce. I felt nothing but contempt. Thursday morning I packed for Chicago. Kissed Natasha goodbye at the door, told her I loved her. Drove to the airport. Then I parked in long-term parking, took an Uber back to a hotel 15 minutes from our house, and checked in under a false name. I told my clients I had a family emergency and would be attending the conference remotely. Everything was set. I opened my laptop and pulled up the live camera feeds from the house. Now I waited. Natasha left for work at her normal time, around 8:30. The house was empty. At noon, I watched her come home, early for her. She moved through the house, tidying up, changing clothes. She put on something more casual than her usual work attire. She was preparing. At 2 in the afternoon, Vivienne let herself in with the key. She and Natasha hugged in the kitchen. I couldn't hear their conversation, but they were both smiling. They talked for maybe 20 minutes, then Natasha left, off to establish an alibi, probably. Maybe meeting friends for an early dinner, making sure she was seen. Vivienne stayed. She opened another bottle of wine. Poured 2 glasses. She was waiting for me to come home, except I wasn't coming home. At 6, she texted me. Hey, I know you're in Chicago, but I was thinking about you. Miss our talks. I didn't respond. At 7, another text. Did you land okay? Hope the flight was good. Still no response from me. At 8, she called. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. I could see her on the camera feed, getting frustrated. She was pacing, checking her phone constantly. This wasn't going according to plan. I was supposed to be there. Or maybe I was supposed to come home early from the airport. Had they planned some fake emergency to call me back at 9, she finally left. But she took one of the wine glasses with her. Interesting. Maybe to plant evidence later that we'd been drinking together. I watched her car leave the driveway, then I made my move. I called Natasha. She answered on the second ring, voice bright. Hey babe, how's Chicago? It's good, I lied smoothly. Busy day tomorrow. I just wanted to hear your voice before bed. Oh, that's sweet. I miss you. Miss you too. What did you do today? Oh, just work stuff. Met Sarah and Jennifer for dinner after. Girls' night, you know how it is. Sarah and Jennifer, I made a mental note to verify that later. Sounds fun. Vivienne didn't join you. There was the briefest pause. No, she had something. Work event, I think. Got it. Well, I should let you go. Love you. Love you too. Talk tomorrow. I hung up and smiled. She just lied to me. Vivienne had been at our house for hours, not at a work event. The web of lies was documented. Friday, Vivienne tried again. She texted me at lunchtime. Hope you're having a good conference. When you get back, we should all grab dinner. I have something I want to talk to you and Nat about. Setting up the next attempt, probably. I responded this time. Sounds good. I'm back Saturday night. That evening, I watched Natasha on the cameras. She had Vivienne. Over again. This time I could see them sitting at the kitchen table, and I'd positioned a camera close enough to catch audio. He's not taking the bait, Vivienne said, frustrated. I've tried everything, showing up at the house, the confession in the car, all the texting. He's either completely oblivious or not interested. Natasha drummed her fingers on the table. We need something more direct. Next week when he's working from home, I'll say I have an overnight work trip. You come over in the evening. Bring wine, wear something that makes your intentions obvious. If he still doesn't bite, we might have to try something else. Like what? Vivienne asked. I don't know, maybe we've been going about this wrong. Maybe instead of getting him to cheat, we manufacture evidence that he cheated. Photos, texts from a burner phone, something. Vivienne looked uncomfortable. That's riskier. What if he proves it's fake? How would he? We'd be careful. They kept planning. I recorded every word. Saturday, I actually flew back from the airport, just from long-term parking, and came home at the expected time. Natasha greeted me with a kiss, asked about the conference. I told her elaborately constructed lies about panels I hadn't attended and people I hadn't seen. She believed every word. Over the next 2 weeks, I let them think their plan was progressing. When Natasha announced an overnight work trip, I acted normal. When Vivienne texted to say she'd come keep me company, I agreed. Sure, come over for dinner. I'll order Thai food. The night arrived. Wednesday evening, mid-March. Natasha had left that morning for her supposed work trip. I'd verified she was actually at a hotel downtown, probably waiting for Vivienne's confirmation that the seduction had worked. I spent the afternoon preparing the house. Every camera was recording. My laptop was open in the office with the lawyer on standby via video call. He wanted to witness this in real time, if possible. I'd dressed casually, jeans and a button-down. I ordered Thai food, set the table, and waited. Vivienne arrived at 7, wearing a dress that was definitely not appropriate for a casual dinner between friends. Low-cut, tight, expensive. She'd done her makeup carefully, hair styled. She was dressed for seduction. Cameron, she said, smiling as I opened the door. Thanks for letting me come over. I know Nat feels bad about leaving you alone so much with her work schedule. No problem, I said evenly. Come in, food should be here in 20 minutes. She walked in and I could smell her perfume, the same expensive floral scent from months ago. She was carrying a bottle of wine, expensive red. She held it up. Brought reinforcements. Figured we could use something better than whatever's in your fridge. Thoughtful, I said, leading her to the kitchen. Every word, every movement was being recorded from multiple angles. She opened the wine while I got glasses. We made small talk about her work, my work, the weather, surface-level conversation. The food arrived, and we sat at the dining room table to eat. She kept refilling my wine glass. I took small sips, staying completely sober while she drank more freely. After dinner, she suggested we move to the living room. More comfortable, she said with a smile. We sat on the couch. She made sure to sit close, angling her body toward mine. She tucked her legs under herself, leaning in as she talked. The conversation shifted to more personal topics. She asked about my marriage. You and Nat seem happy, she said, her voice soft. But I know relationships can be complicated. Are you really happy, Cameron? I looked at her steadily. I'm very happy with my wife. Really? She moved closer, her knee touching mine. Because sometimes I get the sense that you're lonely, that maybe Natasha doesn't appreciate everything you do. She works so much, she's always stressed. When's the last time she really saw you? Vivienne, I said calmly, not moving away yet. What are you doing? She bit her lip, a gesture that was clearly calculated to be seductive. I think you know what I'm doing. I think you've known for a while. Cameron, I've tried to fight this, but I can't anymore. I'm attracted to you, really attracted to you, and I think you feel the same way. I don't, I said clearly. You're my wife's best friend. This is inappropriate. She put her hand on my thigh. Natasha doesn't have to know. No one has to know. It can just be between us. Don't you want to feel desired? Don't you want someone who actually makes you a priority? I stood up, stepping away from the couch. Her hand fell away. Vivienne, I need you to leave. She stood too, moving toward me. Cameron, please don't overthink this. I know you feel something. I've seen the way you look at me. I've never looked at you that way, I said firmly. You need to go now. Her expression shifted, frustration bleeding through the seductive facade. Are you serious? You're really going to pretend you don't want this? There's nothing to pretend. I love my wife. I'm not interested in you. I've never been interested in you. Every time you've made a move, I've shut it down. This needs to stop. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her recalculating. Then she did something I didn't expect. She raised her voice, making it sound distressed. Cameron, why are you doing this? I came over as a friend, and you're making this weird. I understood immediately. She was creating a scene, maybe hoping a neighbor would hear, maybe planning to claim I'd been the one making advances. But she'd forgotten one thing, or rather, she didn't know about one thing. Vivienne, I said quietly. You should know that everything you've said and done tonight has been recorded. Every visit you've made to this house for the past 3 months has been recorded, including the times you let yourself in with Natasha's key when I wasn't home. Including the phone conversation you had with my wife where you discussed your plan to set me up for infidelity so she could void our prenuptial agreement. The color drained from her face. What? I pulled out my phone and played the audio clip from that night in February. Her voice came through clearly. Once he cheats, you file immediately and take everything. Yes, the prenup becomes void if he's unfaithful. She grabbed for the phone, but I stepped back. That's just a copy. Everything is backed up in multiple secure locations, and my lawyer has it all. This conversation is also being recorded, by the way. Every camera in this house has been running since you arrived. She looked around wildly as if she could spot the cameras. You're insane. You've been spying on me? I've been documenting a conspiracy to defraud me in my own home, I corrected. There's a difference. Now I'm going to ask you one more time, leave, and tell Natasha that her plan failed. Vivienne's face cycled through emotions, shock, anger, fear, calculation. Finally, she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Before she left, she turned back. You can't prove anything. It's your word against ours. Actually, I said calmly, it's video and audio evidence against your word. See yourself out. She left. The door slammed behind her. I watched through the exterior camera as she got in her car and sat there for a minute, probably calling Natasha. Then she drove away. I called Richard Chen immediately. I've got everything. She propositioned me. I clearly refused, and she knows we have evidence of the entire conspiracy. Perfect, he said. Now here's what we do next. The next phase of my plan was about making sure the destruction was complete and public. I wasn't just going to divorce Natasha quietly. I wanted everyone to know what they'd tried to do. I spent the rest of Wednesday night preparing. I didn't sleep. I compiled every piece of evidence into a comprehensive folder, video clips edited together with timestamps, audio files, screenshots of suspicious texts, the timeline document I'd been maintaining. Everything organized, clear, and damning. Thursday morning, Natasha came home from her fake work trip. She walked in around 10 looking tired and tense. She probably knew from Vivienne that the plan had failed. Hey babe, she said, setting her bag down. How was your night? I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open. Interesting. Vivienne came over. She froze for just a fraction of a second. Oh, that's nice of her. Keep you company. She tried to seduce me, I said flatly. Made it very clear what she wanted. I refused and asked her to leave. Natasha's face arranged itself into an expression of shock. What, Cameron, I can't believe she'd do that. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll talk to her. Don't bother, I interrupted. I know you were in on it. I know about the plan. I have recordings of both of you discussing how to set me up, how to void the prenup, everything. Her face went white. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. What recordings? I turned the laptop around, showing her the video compilation. The first clip showed Vivienne letting herself into our house with a key, sitting on our couch, calling Natasha and discussing the plan. The audio was crystal clear. I watched Natasha watch herself being exposed. Her hands started shaking. How long? She whispered. I've known for 3 months. I've been documenting everything since February. Every conversation, every visit, every lie you've both told. My lawyer has everything. It's all admissible in court. She sat down heavily, all pretense gone. Cameron, don't, I said. Don't try to explain or justify this. You and your best friend spent months plotting to destroy me financially. You were willing to manufacture evidence of infidelity, to steal everything I've worked for. The woman I married, the woman I trusted, was running a con. Tears started streaming down her face. It wasn't supposed to be like this. When we got married, I signed that prenup, and then I started thinking about what would happen if things didn't work out, and Vivienne said you deserved more money? I finished. Vivienne helped you plan fraud, and you went along with it, for money, not because I was abusive or unfaithful or neglectful. It was because you wanted more money. She was sobbing now. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Please, Cameron, we can fix this. I'll call it all off. We can go to counseling, please. It's too late for that. I've already filed for divorce. You'll be served papers this afternoon, and because you attempted fraud, the prenup not only stands, but my lawyer is pursuing additional damages. You'll be lucky to leave this marriage with anything. You can't do this, she said desperately. I'll fight it. With what evidence? I have everything, Natasha. Video, audio, documented timeline. You have nothing except a failed conspiracy and a co-conspirator who will probably turn on you the second she's questioned under oath. She just stared at me, the reality sinking in. Her whole plan had collapsed. Worse, she was going to lose everything she'd tried to take. I need you to pack some things and stay somewhere else, I said. Hotel, your parents, wherever, but you're not staying here. The locks will be changed by tonight. This is my house too, she said weakly. Actually, per the prenup, the house is in my name only. You have no legal claim to it. Pack now. She went upstairs like a ghost. I sat in the kitchen, listening to her move around above me, opening drawers, throwing things into a suitcase. 20 minutes later, she came down with 2 bags, her eyes red and swollen. At the door, she turned. I really did love you at the beginning. That's supposed to make this better, I asked. That you loved me before you decided to destroy me? She had no answer. She left. I changed the locks that afternoon, served her with divorce papers that evening through a process server who found her at a hotel. Then I did something that would ensure this story didn't stay private. I called both families, my parents, her parents. I requested an emergency meeting at my house that Saturday. Everyone agreed to come, confused but concerned. I didn't explain why Saturday arrived. My parents came looking worried. Natasha's parents came, along with her brother. Natasha came too, looking haggard. She probably thought this was a last-ditch attempt at reconciliation, a chance to control the narrative with family present. I'd also invited my closest friends, my college roommate Tyler, my business partner Marcus, and their wives. And I'd invited Vivienne. She tried to decline, but I told her that if she didn't show up voluntarily, she'd be subpoenaed to testify in court, and everything would come out anyway. Better to face it now with some control over the situation. Everyone gathered in my living room, 14 people total. They sat on couches and chairs, some people standing. The tension was obvious. Natasha sat next to her mother, who kept looking between us with concern. Vivienne sat as far from everyone as possible, looking ill. I stood at the front of the room with my laptop connected to the TV. Thank you all for coming. I know this is unusual, but I needed you to hear this directly from me with evidence because I know Natasha is going to try to spin this story her way. Natasha's father frowned. Cameron, what's going on? Natasha said you filed for divorce out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, I said. Let me show you why. I played the video compilation. It started with Vivienne's first visit to the house when Natasha was out of town. Included the footage of her using Natasha's key to let herself in. Featured the audio of her discussing the plan with my wife. Showed the attempted seduction from Wednesday night and ended with my clear refusal and her retreat. The room was completely silent except for the audio from the TV. I watched everyone's faces. Shock, disbelief, anger. Natasha's mother had her hand over her mouth, tears forming. Her father's face was turning red with fury. My own parents looked devastated. When the video ended, I turned to the room. 3 months, my wife and her best friend plotted to frame me for infidelity so Natasha could file for divorce and void our prenuptial agreement. They attempted this scheme multiple times. I documented everything. I gave Vivienne every opportunity to stop, and she refused. I remained faithful to my wife throughout. The marriage is over, not because I wanted it to end, but because the woman I married was willing to destroy me for money. Natasha's father turned to her. Tell me this isn't true. Tell me there's an explanation. She was crying, unable to speak. Vivienne was staring at the floor. Natasha's mother looked at her daughter with an expression I can only describe as heartbreak. Natasha, answer your father. It's true, Natasha whispered. I'm sorry, it's true. The room exploded. Natasha's father started shouting. My mother was crying. Tyler was swearing under his breath. Natasha's brother looked like he wanted to disappear, and Natasha just sat there, taking it all, knowing there was no defense. Natasha's father turned to me. Cameron, I don't know what to say. I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed. We raised her better than this. I know you did, I said quietly. That's why I wanted you to see the truth, because she's going to need family support when this is over, and I wanted you to know exactly what happened so you could help her rebuild her life. Even after everything, I don't want her destroyed completely. I just want justice. He nodded, unable to speak, then turned back to his daughter. How could you? I turned to Vivienne. As for you, I want you to know that if you come near me, my property, or anyone I care about ever again, I will pursue legal action for harassment and conspiracy to commit fraud. I have more than enough evidence. Do you understand? She nodded, still not meeting anyone's eyes. Good, you can leave now. She practically ran out of the house. No one stopped her. No one even looked at her. The gathering broke up shortly after. Natasha's family left with her, her mother holding her as she sobbed. My parents stayed for a while, making sure I was okay. Tyler offered to take me out for drinks. I declined. I just wanted to be alone. The divorce proceedings were swift. With the evidence I had, Natasha's lawyer advised her not to fight anything. She signed the papers within 2 weeks. Per the prenup, she left the marriage with nothing. No house, no alimony, no claim to my business or assets. She walked away with only what she'd brought into the marriage and what she'd earned herself. My lawyer did pursue a civil case against both women for conspiracy and attempted fraud. It was settled out of court. Vivienne paid a settlement to avoid going to trial. Her social media career was already destroyed once word got out among mutual friends about what she'd done. She lost sponsorships, followers, everything. Last I heard, she'd moved to another state to start over. Natasha moved back in with her parents for a while. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she eventually moved to another city, started a new job at a smaller firm. Her reputation in our social circle was obliterated. The legal community is small and word travels fast. Several mutual friends cut her off completely. As for me, the first few months were rough. Betrayal by someone you love cuts deep, even when you've had time to prepare for it. I threw myself into work, spent time with close friends who'd proven their loyalty, went to therapy to process everything. But something interesting happened, once the story got out, and it did get out despite my best efforts to keep it private. I started getting messages from other men who'd been through similar situations, from people who'd seen friends or family members get conned by people they trusted, from folks who just wanted to say they respected how I'd handled it. I also got attention from women, which felt strange at first. But I wasn't ready. I needed time to trust again. Time to rebuild my sense of security in relationships. About 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I met someone. Her name was Lauren, and she was a financial analyst who'd gone through her own difficult divorce years earlier. We met at a friend's barbecue, started talking, and found we had similar perspectives on life. She knew my story, everyone in our social circle did, but she didn't treat me like a victim or a hero. She just treated me like a person. We took it slow, very slow. I was upfront about my trust issues. She was patient. We built something genuine, founded on honesty and respect. No games, no manipulation. Just two people who'd been burned before, learning to be vulnerable again. It's been 2 years now since everything fell apart with Natasha. Lauren and I are living together. We're talking about marriage, though I've made it clear I'll want another prenup. Not because I don't trust her, but because I've learned that practical protections aren't the same as emotional distrust. She understands completely. In fact, she insists on it. She wants us both protected. I still think about that whole nightmare sometimes. The months of surveillance, the careful documentation, the moment I realized my wife was my enemy, the satisfaction of watching their plan crumble, the pain of losing what I thought was a real marriage. But mostly I think about the lesson: trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, investigate. When you find betrayal, document it. When you have evidence, act decisively. Don't let emotion override strategy. Don't. Confront until you have overwhelming proof. And when you execute your plan, make sure the truth is undeniable. I also learned that strength isn't about being the loudest or the most aggressive. It's about staying calm when everything in you wants to explode. It's about playing the long game when the short game would feel more satisfying. It's about protecting yourself legally and financially before you protect your ego. Some people have asked if I regret how I handled it. If maybe I should have just confronted Natasha the moment I suspected something, tried to work it out before it escalated. But here's the thing. The moment I would have confronted her without evidence, she would have denied everything. Vivienne would have backed her up. I would have looked paranoid. They would have been more careful, and eventually they might have succeeded in framing me. By staying silent, by gathering evidence, by letting them think they were winning right up until they lost everything, I protected myself completely. I walked away from that marriage with my assets intact, my reputation defended, and the truth on my side. Was it cold? Yes. Was it calculated? Absolutely. But when someone is plotting to destroy you, you don't owe them warmth. You owe yourself protection. I've heard that Natasha is doing okay now. She's dating someone, working at her new firm, rebuilding her life. Part of me hopes she's learned from this, that she's become a better person, that she'll never try to con anyone again. But honestly, that's not my concern anymore. She made her choices. She faces the consequences. My only concern is the life I'm building now. Lauren and I are planning a trip to Japan next spring. I'm expanding my consulting business into new markets. I bought a new house, different neighborhood, fresh start, no bad memories. My relationship with my parents is stronger than ever. My friends have proven their loyalty, and every single day I'm grateful that I trusted my instincts. That I didn't gaslight myself into believing everything was fine when I knew it wasn't. That I documented everything before acting. That I executed my plan perfectly. The cameras are long gone now. I don't need them anymore. But the lesson remains. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And when they try to destroy you, be smarter, be calmer, and be ready to win. Because in the end, justice isn't always loud and dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, methodical, and absolutely devastating. And there's something deeply satisfying about watching people who thought you were weak discover just how wrong they were. I'm Cameron. I trusted my wife. She betrayed me. I outsmarted her. And I rebuilt my life into something better than what I had before.